They didn't just want to be good. They wanted to be legends. The biggest arms, the most shredded physique, the craziest body to ever hit the stage. They lived and breathed bodybuilding and pushed way past every possible limit. But when you chase the extreme, your body eventually makes you pay, and the price is steep. In this video, you'll hear real, intense, and sometimes tragic stories of bodybuilders who pushed the human body beyond what it was meant to handle. These were men who were admired, respected, even idolized, but paid a heavy price for the choices they made. What started as passion turned into obsession, and what looked like victory was actually hiding a breakdown waiting to happen. Stick around to the end and see the side of bodybuilding most people are too afraid to talk about. For years, Greg Kovacs was a true giant in the world of bodybuilding. Standing at a towering 6 feet 4 inches, 1.93 meters, and weighing over 420 pounds, 190 kilograms. At his peak, he looked like he'd stepped straight out of a superhero comic. But unlike comic book stories, real life hits hard when you push the human body too far. The insane size he reached became both his claim to fame and a cause for concern. But it wasn't just the number on the scale that made people stop and stare. Greg had arms over 25 inches, 63 centimeters, around, something completely unreal, even by bodybuilding standards. He wanted to be the biggest, the thickest, the most extreme. But size isn't everything, especially in competitive bodybuilding. Despite his massive frame, Greg never really made waves on the IFBB stage. So why didn't he stand out more in competitions? The truth is his size actually worked against him. His physique became so massive it started to throw off his symmetry and proportions, two of the most critical judging factors in bodybuilding. And then there was his infamous abdominal distension. Critics often pointed out how bloated his stomach looked, constantly pushing forward and ruining the overall aesthetic. Behind that massive exterior, Greg's health was quietly falling apart. His body was under constant stress, and heavy use of steroids and other substances only made things worse. His heart, tasked with pumping blood through that monster of a body, eventually gave out. In 2013, at just 44 years old, Greg died from a massive heart attack. It was a tragic and early end for someone so obsessed with size. Greg Kovacs' death sent shockwaves through the bodybuilding world. He became the ultimate warning sign of what happens when more becomes too much. His collapse sparked serious conversations about the dangers of taking things to the extreme. Is it really worth pushing past every limit to chase an unattainable physique? Or is there a point where the dream turns into a nightmare? These are questions every athlete needs to ask before heading down that path. Even after his passing, Greg's name still comes up in discussions about that thin line between dedication and self-destruction. His visual impact was undeniable, but the cost was way too high. A lot of newcomers, after hearing his story, start to rethink the goals they've set in the gym. Do you think he'd do it all over again if he had the chance to go back? Andreas Münzer was the ultimate symbol of extreme definition in bodybuilding. While most guys chase size, he was all about detail, every muscle fiber popping, every vein visible right under the skin. His physique was so dry and chiseled it looked like it was carved out of stone. But behind that almost superhuman appearance, there was a high price being paid, silently and constantly. Andreas was obsessed with conditioning, pushing his prep to unthinkable extremes. He stripped his body of fat and water to the very edge of survival. On show day, his skin was practically see-through. A lot of people still call him the most conditioned bodybuilder the sport has ever seen. But here's the real question. What's the cost of keeping your body in that kind of shape? To look like that, he relied heavily on diuretics, stimulants, and a cocktail of substances that pushed his body into extreme dehydration. His liver and kidneys were constantly overloaded, trying to keep his system in balance. He knew the risks, but his drive to be the most shredded guy on stage was stronger than any fear of breaking down. In 1996, Shortly after competition, Andreas fell seriously ill and was rushed to the hospital. By then, his body was in total collapse. Doctors found out he was suffering from multiple organ failure. His liver was so damaged. One report said it looked like it had been cooked from the inside. At just 31 years old, his journey came to a sudden and heartbreaking end. So young, so full of potential, and completely destroyed on the inside. His death shook the bodybuilding world. On the outside, he looked like the peak of perfection, but inside, his body had been screaming for help. That dry, razor-sharp look that wowed judges was hiding a system on the verge of shutting down. Is a recognition on stage really worth your entire life? It's a question most avoid until it's too late. Even with such a tragic ending, Andreas is still remembered as a legend. His physique is still shown today as the gold standard for extreme conditioning. But should that be celebrated or questioned? Do we actually learn anything from his sacrifice? Andreas Münzer left behind a legacy that's both inspiring and cautionary. He showed what's possible with insane discipline and focus. But he also gave us a harsh wake-up call about what happens when you ignore your body's limits. Nasser El-Somebody was known not just for his massive size, but for his brutal honesty. Unlike a lot of athletes who dodge the topic, he spoke openly about steroid use. He didn't hide anything. To him, it was just part of the game, especially at the pro level. But did that level of honesty come with a real awareness of the risks? During his career, Nasser built one of the heaviest, densest physiques of the 90s. Stepping on stage at around 275 pounds, 125 kilograms, with insane muscle detail, he stood toe-to-toe with monsters like Dorian Yates. But unlike many of his peers, he never pretended it was all just hard work and clean eating. That made people respect his transparency, even if some saw it as reckless. Even after retiring, Nasser kept using gear. He said he liked the muscular look and didn't want to give it up. But his body wasn't the same anymore. Without the intense training routine and with age creeping in, the side effects started hitting harder. He began experiencing serious health problems, especially with his kidneys. He was hospitalized multiple times, but it seemed like he just couldn't let go of the lifestyle he'd built. In 2013, while on a trip to Egypt, he passed away at just 47 years old. Another life cut short by choices that felt impossible to walk away from. Sad, right? Nasser's death left the bodybuilding community with mixed emotions. People mourned, but some also saw it as a hard lesson. Sticking to the same habits post-retirement might have been the fatal mistake. Would he have lived longer if he'd known when to stop? Even with the tragic ending, Nasser left a mark that can't be denied. He was smart, spoke multiple languages, and had a powerful presence on stage. His technical knowledge and his courage to speak the truth are still respected today. At the end of the day, Nasser's story is a reminder that knowing when to stop isn't weakness, it's wisdom. He was big, he was real, but he paid a high price for not knowing when to say enough. Dallas McCarver was seen as the future of bodybuilding. At just 26 years old, he had a physique that reminded people of Ronnie Coleman in his prime. Massive size, insane density, sharp conditioning, and a commanding stage presence. Fans were hyped about his potential. But that promising career came to a sudden, tragic end. Do you remember where you were when you heard the news? In 2017, Dallas was found unconscious at home, reportedly after choking on food. At first, it sounded like a freak accident, but the autopsy painted a much darker picture. His internal organs were massively enlarged. His heart alone was over twice the size of a normal one. His liver, kidneys, even his lungs, all in a seriously abnormal state. So what caused it? The report pointed to extreme hormone use and other substances. Steroids, insulin, growth hormone, all at dangerously high levels. On the outside, he looked like a young, healthy beast, but inside, his body was breaking down like that of someone decades older. That shredded, powerful look was hiding a system already falling apart. Is chasing the #1 spot worth risking your life? Dallas was charismatic and loved by many. He always seemed upbeat, focused, and deeply committed. What most didn't know is that he was already dealing with serious health issues, likely worsened by constant heavy cycles. His body was monstrous, but his heart had been suffering in silence. His death hit the bodybuilding world hard. He was young, at the top of his game, and seemed to have everything going for him. But the warning signs were there. Maybe no one was really paying attention. How many other athletes could be walking that same dangerous path right now? Even with such a short career, Dallas made a lasting impact. His physique and work ethic still inspire a lot of people. But his story also serves as a major wake-up call. Having the best body means nothing if you're falling apart on the inside. Dallas McCarver's case shows that it's not just about what you look like. It's what's happening underneath that really keeps you going. You want to be the best, but maybe you push the gas pedal too hard. If he'd taken it slower, would he be dominating the stage today? Or is the pressure to get fast results just too intense to resist? Rich Piana was one of the most controversial and charismatic figures in the fitness world. With his bold tattoos, massive physique, and huge presence on social media, he turned heads wherever he went. But what really set him apart from other athletes was his honesty. He spoke openly about the risks, steroid use, and all the side effects. You've probably seen one of his videos where he says something like, if you're going to use, know what you're getting into, right? Even though he was brutally honest about what he did to his body, Rich wasn't exactly the poster boy for moderation. He'd been using steroids for over 25 years and also used things like synthol to artificially pump up muscle size. His look was borderline alien, over the top and intentionally in your face. He believed everyone had the right to make their own choices, but he also warned that the cost could be steep. And for him, it was. Rich had cardiomegaly, an abnormally enlarged heart. His intestines were also swollen, a common side effect of heavy hormone and GH use. He knew he was playing with fire, but he kept going. It was almost like he'd accepted the price tag that came with the life he chose. What about you? Would you take that gamble if the prize was your own life? In 2017, Rich collapsed at home while getting a haircut and never woke up. He spent 2 weeks in a coma before the official confirmation came, dead at 46. The medical report confirmed what he probably already knew deep down. His body had had enough. It was a sad ending, but maybe not a surprising one. As he used to say, bigger by the day or not. Even after his death, Rich's influence is still strong in the bodybuilding world. His videos still get shared, his quotes turned into memes, and his lifestyle still sparks debate. Some see him as a cautionary tale, others as a symbol of personal freedom. But in the end, one question remains: did he sacrifice himself, or just live life on his own terms? Rich also had a deeply motivational side. He talked about chasing your dreams, being real with yourself, and giving 100% to everything. But maybe in his quest to go all in, he ignored the warning signs his body was throwing at him. There's a fine line between living life to the fullest and living recklessly. Can you tell the difference? Rich Piana's story is a mix of inspiration, excess, and tragedy. He was a giant who spent his whole life warning others about the dangers, and still couldn't escape them himself. His journey proves that even those who know the risks can end up paying the price. So what would you have done in his shoes? Muhammad bin Aziza was one of the standout talents of 90s bodybuilding, even if he's not as well known among younger fans today. Nicknamed the Killer of Giants for beating athletes way bigger than him, he was living proof that symmetry and conditioning could outshine sheer size. At just 5 feet 3 inches, 1.60 meters, he showed that strategy and discipline could level the playing field. But his quest for perfection ended in tragedy. In 1992, after competing at the Grand Prix in the Netherlands, he began feeling unwell just hours after the show. He was found dead in his hotel room. He was only 33. The cause? Extreme dehydration and heavy diuretic use. Substances that help athletes get ultra lean and defined, but can be deadly when taken too far. Imagine losing your life just from trying to get more shredded. Diuretics are commonly used in bodybuilding to get that dry, crisp look on stage. They flush water out of the body, making the muscles look more cut and defined. But losing too much water can trigger serious internal collapse, blood pressure crashes, heart failure, kidney shutdown. Andreas was so dehydrated that his body just shut down. Reports say that on the day of the show, he was already complaining of extreme fatigue and severe muscle pain. Still, he stepped on stage and delivered an incredible physique. He was known for his discipline and tunnel vision focus during prep, but that same drive may have stopped him from listening to the warnings his body was screaming. So where's the line between discipline and stubbornness? His death sent shockwaves through the bodybuilding world. He was young, talented, and had a bright future ahead. In fact, it was after this tragedy that Dorian Yates, a close friend of his, became much more cautious with substance use. The loss was so impactful, it became a turning point for a lot of athletes. Sad how sometimes it takes one life ending for others to finally wake up, right? Even now, Andreas' story is still told as a cautionary tale. He reminds us that show day shouldn't be treated like a life or death mission. The perfect look on stage should never cost you your life. Andreas had one of the most aesthetic physiques of his era and one of the most shocking deaths in the sport. His story proves that the smallest details, like how much water is in your system, aren't so small after all. Sometimes it's those exact details that decide whether you walk away with glory or don't walk away at all. So what do you think? What could have changed that day? Art Atwood was the kind of bodybuilder who blew people away with sheer size. His physique was absolutely insane, veins popping, muscles ballooned, extreme volume everywhere. He represented the heavier, freakier side of the sport, where being called a monster was actually a compliment. But with that size came serious risks. He was known for his aggressive use of insulin and growth hormone, GH, substances that can take an average body and turn it into something massive. Insulin helps shuttle nutrients into the muscles, making them explode in size, while GH can reshape the body completely, even causing internal organs to grow. The thing is, this kind of chemical manipulation demands precision. One wrong move, and it can be fatal. Even though his time on stage was short, Art made waves fast thanks to his outrageous size. He competed in IFBB shows and earned some decent placements, but it was clear his goal was size over aesthetics. That made him a fan favorite for some, and a target for criticism from others. Can you be huge without sacrificing your health and proportions? At just 37 years old, Art died from a massive heart attack. The news shocked many, but those who followed the behind-the-scenes of the sport weren't entirely surprised. Years of hormone use, insulin, and steroids had pushed his body to the brink. On the outside, he looked like a superhero. On the inside, he was a system seconds away from shutdown. His death sparked more talk about the dangers of extreme supplementation. Insulin, in particular, is one of the riskiest substances in bodybuilding. One slip up with the dose can cause severe hypoglycemia, fainting, or even death. And long-term GH use that can mess with organs, tissues, and throw your whole system out of balance. Even with limited time in the spotlight, Art left behind a trail of conversation in the fitness world. He embodied that side of bodybuilding where bigger was the only goal. But in today's landscape, is that ideal still worth chasing? With so many losses piling up, fans and athletes alike are starting to rethink what really matters in the sport. Do you feel that shift too? Art Atwood's story is yet another reminder that pushing things too far almost always comes at a cost. Being the biggest doesn't always mean being the best, and definitely not the healthiest. He joined the list of those who crossed the line and paid the ultimate price. Paul Dillett was an absolute wall of muscle in the 90s. With boulder-sized shoulders, muscles exploding in every direction, and a truly intimidating presence, he looked unstoppable. A lot of people saw him as one of the biggest names of the post-Lee Haney era. But in 1994, at the Arnold Classic, he experienced one of the most terrifying moments in bodybuilding history. In the middle of his routine, something weird started happening. He completely froze, like his body just locked up. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, and slowly began collapsing while the audience watched in shock. Medical staff rushed in and found he was dangerously dehydrated. The heavy use of diuretics had nearly killed him, right there in front of everyone. Once again, the quest for extreme definition was the villain. Paul had taken high doses of diuretics to get as dry and shredded as possible for the show. But the excessive fluid loss made his muscles stiffen up, and his entire system just started shutting down. The moment was so intense, it became a symbol of the risks that come with chasing that ultra-lean look. Can you imagine the terror of being trapped inside your own body? The craziest part? He survived. After a hospital stay and a tough recovery, Paul chose to keep competing. Most people would have called it quits, but he stepped back on stage, even bigger and more determined. The question is, was that bravery or stubbornness? What would you do after almost dying on live TV? That incident made a lot of athletes start questioning how far they were willing to go in prep. The aesthetic standards being pushed by judges were leading competitors to make increasingly dangerous decisions. Drying out your body so much that you pass out on stage. Is that really worth it? Is a couple extra points on a score sheet worth risking your life? Paul Dillett went on to have a successful career and is still remembered as one of the greats of his generation. He also became a businessman and the head of a bodybuilding federation, where he now advocates for a healthier path in the sport. That near-death experience didn't just shake him. It sparked reflection and change. Sometimes, surviving is the first step toward transforming everything around you. Paul's story shows us that not every collapse ends in tragedy, but every one comes with a warning. He got lucky. Others didn't. The stage can be a place of glory or disaster. So what do you think? Is the pressure for aesthetics really worth all this? Or is it time for bodybuilding to finally rethink its limits before it's too late? Now I want to hear from you. What do you think about all these stories we shared today? How far do you believe is really worth going in the pursuit of the perfect physique? Do the recognition, the applause, and the trophies truly justify the extreme risks these athletes took? Should bodybuilding have clearer limits? Or is it all about personal responsibility and freedom of choice? And what about today's athletes? Are they still following that same path to reach the top? Or has the road to greatness quietly turned into a road to self-destruction? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd seriously love to hear what you think. It's always awesome to exchange ideas with people who really live and breathe this lifestyle. And of course, share this video with your gym crew, your bodybuilding buddies, or that one friend who's obsessed with getting jacked. Everyone needs to reflect on this side of the sport that doesn't get talked about enough. Don't forget to hit that like button too. It helps a ton with the channel and keeps me fired up to bring more content like this, always with research, respect, and real talk. If you're not subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Hit that button and turn on notifications. Here, we talk bodybuilding seriously, but without the fluff. Expect both inspiration and the hard truths that need to be heard. And trust me, there's a lot more good stuff coming your way. Oh, and if this topic caught your attention, I've got another video that dives even deeper and ties in perfectly with what we covered today. It's linked down in the description. Catch you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around. And remember, muscles impress, but health is what holds it all together.